Another rule was if a man was to take, a servant as a wife, he can't treat her as a secondary wife if he's already married. Now, I don't think this is the Bible endorsing polygamy. Again, I think this is taking practices they're already doing and elevating the rights of the people who would be very likely to be oppressed and abused within those practices. That's what seems to be consistent. Just like when Jesus says, this is why God allowed you to divorce, because the hardness of your hearts in the Old Testament law, but yet it's not the ideal. So this isn't the ideal, but the elevation of the rights of those who would be weak or who would be abused, who would be more likely to be oppressed. That's what we see consistently in the Old Testament.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. And yes, this is the Bible endorsing and condoning polygamy. So let's add to the list here. Israel is founded upon both sexual slavery and polygamy. I mean, if you think about it, Jacob, the guy who God naked wrestled in the desert, grabbed his dick and called him Israel, bought both of his wives with his hard labor. Then he had children with not only both Rachel and Leah, but also their servant girls. The wives were sexual slaves because they were sold into their marriages. The servants became sexual slaves when they were forced to get impregnated by Jacob. And don't try to sell me on this idea that God couldn't mandate that you should only be married to one person because of our hard hearts. God mandated a lot of superfluous shit. He told them the exact blueprints of his temple, how polished his gate should be, and what kind of gold trim to use in his butt-fucking room. He could have easily popped in and said, by the way, only one spouse, yo. God didn't mandate those things because, simply put, this was a misogynistic society. And they treated women like property. This is clearly evident in the 10 Commandments when women are listed amongst other pieces of property. This is also evident in the fact that you can purchase women with money or your hard labor. Esther, in the book of Esther, is propped up by apologists as being one of the few strong women of the Bible that changed shit. Because she was so strong, she was forced into sexual slavery for King Xerxes, who then eventually made her queen, but was still a sexual slave at that point. In the book of Esther, King Xerxes actually has all of his eunuchs go around and round up a whole bunch of women that Xerxes might like, and then he proceeded to try them out to see which one would be the best queen. And of course, Esther won. And finally, Mike acts like all of this isn't abusive. He doesn't seem to think that it's abusive for Laban to sell his daughters to Jacob. According to Mike, selling your daughter to another man as his wife is elevating privilege. That's just fucking disgusting.
I hope that helps. Those are a few thoughts off the top of my head. Nothing about being sex slaves. And anybody who says that, I fear two things. One, they're very angry or upset or emotionally stirred up on the topic because of the way they've viewed it. But two, they got there without real indications of scripture. Like they got there with their imagination, but not with the clear teaching that we find in the Bible.
When Mike says clear teaching here, what he really means is to put on your Christ-colored glasses and interpret the text so that you can remove all of the horrible shit and all of the horrible realities of the text. Remember, according to Mike here, chattel slavery doesn't even exist in Israel, except that it does. The only person that seems to be using his imagination in this video is Mike. Mike is using eisegesis in order to insert his own interpretations and his own ideas into the text, making them effectively say something that they don't. Like, for instance, that there was no sexual enslavement of women in Israel. He ends up painting the purchasing and selling of women as sexual slaves as elevating their privilege. As if it's a privilege to be sold off to somebody that you don't know for the sole purpose of being their wife. The Bible is not what makes me emotional about this. I totally expect shithead people to create a shithead-centered society. What gets me emotional is that people, apologists like Mike here, try to gaslight everybody into thinking that the Abrahamic set of religions isn't based off the sexual enslavement of women.
Now, if you get there that way, it might be hard to use clear teachings to get you out of there, because people will sometimes perceive someone like me, well, here's the things you didn't consider. They consider this manipulation to try to take away the mean stuff in the Bible. And once they're thinking this about you, you're just a dirty apologist. You're not you're not someone to reason with and think about. You're a dirty apologist, and that's fine.
Well, I don't think that Christian apologists should be trusted to give us good information about critical aspects of Christianity. Apologists are trained to defend the faith, not discover the truth of reality. Whatever they need to do in order to defend the faith, they will do. Like gaslight everybody on the fact that sexual slavery was regularly practiced by the Israelite society. They will tell you that the Israelites didn't practice chattel slavery, but we have direct evidence in the Bible that shows that they did. Apologists simply do not care about history or the historical reliability of their texts. They have to defend their texts as being historically accurate and also the paragons of morality, because that's what their job is. Apologists will only ever tell you whatever they need to in order to defend the honor of their holy texts. That's why I have a sour opinion about apologists. Do you have a sour opinion about apologists? If you do, be sure to let me know in the comments down below.